This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And Mark, it is a great day for the Onside Kick. First off, welcome. If you're new to the Onside Kick, welcome in. If you're returning to the Onside Kick, welcome in. This is where we talk about the NFL here on Most Valuable Podcast. And Mark, it's a great day today. Why is today such a great day? I'll let you tell everyone.
Love mock drafts.
Mock draft number 3 for the Onside Kick. We've done 1. We've done 2. This is a great week for MVP, too, because not only do we get number 3 for the NFL, on Friday night, posted on Saturday, first thing, we get our NBA, our second NBA mock draft as well. So it is a double mock draft week here for MVP. Before we get into it, quick housekeeping to run through it very quickly for you guys. First off, patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. That link down below in the description. You like what we're doing, want to make sure that we can do what we do and do it for you guys each and every day. Check out that link. Also, we have a store, thanks to this guy right here.
That's right.
Hooked us up with a Square store, so that link is now down below in the description. If you want to get this hot MVP t-shirt, you can go ahead and do that down below at our Square store. Number 3, go ahead and bookmark mostvaluablepodcast.com. That's where everything's going to be posted. You don't have to worry about the Blog Talk Radios, the Apple iTunes, or Apple Podcast now they call it. They don't even call it iTunes anymore. It's just Apple Podcast now. My phone updated that, but whether it's audio, whether it's video, everything will be on mostvaluablepodcast.com. Go ahead and bookmark that today. And then last but not least, if you're on Apple Podcasts, or as I still call it, iTunes, go ahead and give the Onside Kick that 5-star rating. It'd mean the world to both Mark and I, and it really helps out the show, giving us that 5-star rating. So Mark, housekeeping's over. We swept it out of the way. Tried to get through it as quick as possible, and it is now mock draft season. So, well, it's been mock draft season. Now it's the mock draft time.
It's always mock draft season.
If you're new to how we do this, we're going to split it up into 3 segments. We're going to start with the top 10. We're going to run through our top 10. And Mark, I will let you start. Number 1, Cleveland Browns on the clock. Let's go. Top 10.
We're going to start it off with Saquon Barkley, the running back, Penn State. Love it, but we'll talk about it. Next to the Giants, Sam Darnold, quarterback, USC. Bradley Chubb for the Colts, defensive end. NC State, Josh Rosen, quarterback out of UCLA. You guys know I love this guy. Mike McGlinchey, the tackle out of Notre Dame. Colts fans are really upset they didn't get him this time. Jets going with none other than Baker Mayfield, quarterback out of Oklahoma. Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Bucks, defensive back, Alabama. Denzel Ward, cornerback out of OSU. Then we're going to go ahead for number 9, Raiders, Raquan Smith, linebacker out of Georgia, and Calvin, that's what I said. Calvin Ridley, the wide receiver out of Alabama, rounding it out for the 49ers.
Well, and then going right into my top 10, so we can talk about this stuff. The Browns staying pat, like I've had the rest of them. Going Sam Darnold, number 1, quarterback from USC. Then at number 2, going the Giants, switching it up on you guys. Saquon Barkley, the running back from Penn State, getting taken by the G-Men. The Colts going with Bradley Chubb, defensive end, NC State. And then here's where things kind of get a little mixy. At number 4, the Browns via the Texans, taking Minkah Fitzpatrick, the safety cornerback from Alabama. Then the Broncos at 5 going, thank you for giving us a gift with Josh Rosen, quarterback from UCLA. John Elway loving that move, loving that pick. Then we go to the Jets at number 6, Josh Allen, the quarterback out of Wyoming. Bucks at 7, going Tremaine Edmonds, the pass rusher from Virginia Tech. The Bears going at 8, Calvin Ridley, wide receiver, Alabama. The Raiders at 9, going Denzel Ward, the cornerback from the Ohio State University. And then at number 10, rounding everything out, you paid the man in Jimmy Garoppolo. You got to protect him. The Niners going Quentin Nelson, the offensive guard from Notre Dame and the Fighting Irish. So, Mark, how I want to start this is we got to start with our guy. He's at the number 1 pick for you, number 2 pick for me, Saquon Barkley. Here's what I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Why did you have him go number 1 because the only reason I couldn't have him go number 1 is because the Browns have not signed Kirk Cousins yet. If the next mock draft rolls around after free agency starts, if Kirk Cousins signs with the Browns, then it's a no-brainer. Browns go Saquon number 1.
It's an interesting one. The Browns come out and say with their new ownership here, or not ownership, but the new GM, that we're gonna go get a quarterback. You know, we're gonna make this quarterback thing happen, and I believe them. But they have number 1 and number 4, and I forget which podcast if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. We were talking about the Browns, how the dream scenario would be Saquon and a quarterback. And there's no way to do that if you draft a quarterback with number 1. For me, this is the Browns taking a bit of a gamble.
I wouldn't say no way.
There's no way that the Giants and the Colts both pass on him.
Most people, the Colts are the ones that I would think would pass. It's the Giants that most people right now have had, for the first 2, I've had quarterback. But I will say, like I have now, the Giants would be the one that would take Saquon. I think that the Colts would take a pass rusher over Saquon.
I just think that the Colts, for them, I mean, you got to replace Frank Gore. He's an old man now, old man in football years. But yeah, to me, this is the way to take the gamble and say, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, one of these guys will be here at 4. And for me with the Browns, it's fun that it's Josh Rosen, because Rosen has said, in nice words, in vague words, has said, I don't want to play for Cleveland. So they still get to get their quarterback. But yeah, this is definitely the opportunity, go for the home run here. Get your quarterback and your running back.
Well, and that's the main reason for mine, the Browns. If I had to pick between a quarterback, Darnold and Rosen, here's the issue I have for the Browns taking quarterback number 1 is after looking at the film a little bit for the quarterbacks, because the first 2 I looked at for our film breakdowns I'm going to be doing is Darnold and Rosen. First 2 I watched. And the thing is, it's like, I like Darnold. The big questions, though, are his mechanics, ball security, and confidence. With Josh Rosen, it's like, okay, he's a better pocket passer. He's got a better spiral. But attitude-wise, how's he going to fit in if I draft him, knowing that he might not want to play for the Cleveland Browns? I'm getting back now to Saquon. That's why the reason Browns, I think, right now, quarterback, depends on what they do. The Giants are the big one to me, because I was sitting there watching NFL Live today, and they were talking about the Giants. And the one thing that I first find interesting about the Giants is, I can't remember, it might have been Graziano on NFL Live mentioned that somebody in the Giants organization had made the term or made the phrase of, like, the reason why Shermer's now in and why they fired McAdoo was, we have an adult in the room now. Where Shermer can be that adult to get that locker room in order, because you're dealing with guys like Odell Beckham was the guy they were talking about. Where is he the biggest strength because of how good he is on the field or how well he plays? Or is he the biggest distraction because of what comes with him, or the biggest weakness because of what comes with him, especially if a corner like Josh Norman gets into his head? If I'm the Giants at number 2, I am foregoing quarterback. Like, at this point, it's like, yeah, I get the argument of, like I've said the last 2 times, when are you going to be in this position again? How long does Eli have? Now I'm starting to think, you know what? We'll get to that bridge, the Eli leaving bridge, when we get to it. We need a run game. We haven't had a run game in forever. I can't remember the last time. Probably Jennings was the last time they had a running back where it's like, okay, he's pretty good back there. Go ahead and get a guy like Saquon to help out with the offensive weapons for Eli Manning.
Yeah, I mean, I still am pretty strong on the you're never going to be in this spot again, hopefully. And you get a guy like Pat Shurmur, who's really good at working with quarterbacks. Now, the Vikings did put a wrench in the plan of not letting the Giants take the quarterback coach as well. But you know, you're not going to get this opportunity again. You let him get out there. And all this comes down to, well, how does Shurmur feel about the quarterbacks that are there? If he doesn't like either one of them, then obviously they're not going to do it. It's really just do you like these quarterbacks? Can you, well, not can you, but do you feel like you can work with them and build them into this quarterback of the future? Because Eli, I don't think he has all that much longer left. And you could wait till the last minute, but that's not how you build a franchise. You know, that's not how you can continuously sustain success. That's not going to work here for the Giants.
Well, and the thing also that I want to bring up is the big thing, like this, for the first time in forever, this top three, unless there's a trade, because that could happen still, depending on the Browns, Giants, and Colts draft, will greatly affect what the rest of the draft falls. And I know someone's sitting there going, well, duh, Ricky. That's how a draft usually goes. But I look at it, and you go back to the 2.0 for a second, and you look at, if Darnold and Rosen go, then to me that forces the Broncos and the Jets to say, we got to go at quarterbacks. Allen Mayfield go off the board in my 2.0. That means the Cardinals, if they're going to go with a quarterback, they got to go with a Lamar Jackson. If the Saints want to go with a quarterback, they got to go with Mason Rudolph. But then you flash forward to now, because the Giants don't go quarterback, that sets off a domino effect where, like, for mine, talking from my mock draft, then the Broncos can grab a Rosen. Then the Jets kind of get their pick between Allen and Mayfield, where whoever's not picked might fall out of the top 10. And the one question I wanted to throw out was that Colts pick, because both you and I have Bradley Chubb sitting there, but in our situation, because both of us have one of the quarterbacks falling out, we have Rosen falling out of the top two because of the Andrew Luck situation, where I've heard there are some stories where he hasn't gripped a football yet. There are some stories where he's going to get a second opinion on that shoulder, and there's a possibility that the doctors don't let him play and say, hey, he needs additional surgeries. Depending on what happens with Andrew Luck, do the Colts then become a team where it's like, hey, we are going to draft a quarterback because maybe Frank Reich doesn't like Jacoby Brissett and isn't confident in him being the quarterback if Luck can't start?
There's things about this that I just don't quite understand. You know, for one, this isn't Doctor Strange here. It's not like his hand is just this mangled mess and he can't move it. Andrew Luck will be able to grab and grip a football. That's I don't even know what that one. People are really over-exaggerating here. And honestly, if he's still hurt, that's fine. Andrew Luck is such a valuable piece to the Colts' future that I don't think they're going to mess that up by going and drafting Josh Rosen. That's just going to have Andrew Luck want to leave. And he will figure out a way to make it happen. To me, that makes no sense. He's going to be okay. He's going to get out there. He's going to play. They're not going to draft a quarterback. You can't avoid a guy like Bradley Chubb. I mean, they just saw, well, two things from the Eagles right now that I want to point out. One, an amazing pass rush really helped defeat a quarterback like Tom Brady. Andrew Luck wants to be the best quarterback in the AFC when he comes back and healthy. The way he's going to do that is with this strong defense, too, that can knock those other quarterbacks down. The other thing, to not avoid that, but with Frank Reich, you know, he just worked with Nick Foles to make him a Super Bowl MVP.
So he could do the same thing with Jacoby? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe not. I don't think Jacoby's going to be a Super Bowl MVP because the rest of the team's not there.
Well, he's got to catch a touchdown pass. That's what
he
he's got to do.
He does, and therefore he'll become better than Tom Brady.
That's the main difference between Foles and Brady, was that Foles caught the pass. Brady didn't.
Really, if you get to a point where you have the rest of the team, you're hoping that Frank Reich can do what has happened with Nick Foles. And now, I've also said, I think just in the last podcast, that it's a very messy situation with Peterson, with Reich, with DiFilippo, of really who was responsible for Carson Wentz's success.
Was it DiFilippo? Was it Frank Reich? Who is it?
For Nick Foles as well.
Is it Doug Peterson?
But I definitely think that you're assuming that this guy was able to work with the backup. He can work with Jacoby Brissett. We traded for him. We obviously thought he was worth trading picks for. So he'll be able to hold down until Andrew Luck comes back.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, the top three, Browns, Giants, and Colts, this is probably... And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not thinking of it, but I can't think of a top three that has held this much magnitude of like, depending on which way they could go and depending on how the top 3 falls will affect how the rest of the draft falls out. And one team I want to get to now is a team that we highlighted on our mock draft worksheet here is your own Chicago Bears. I have him staying pat, although in my big board I had him fall a little bit because, yes, I think that he'll be a quality weapon, can be a number 1 in the NFL. I do have my questions about Calvin Ridley. They're small, but I do have my questions about him. I have them staying pat with him. You had the Bears going a different route with the defense.
Yeah, it seems like right now there's a lot of talk about the Bears going hard in free agency for wide receivers. I know I saw a report today about Marquise Lee and how the Bears are one of the favorites to land him. Then a number 1 for the Bears, probably not. Although the Bears just have a bunch of 3s and 4s, so maybe he would be.
And I know it's not a wide receiver, but the one name I've seen thrown out there that the Bears could target, not like that they are, but they could, Jimmy Graham, get a pass catcher at the tight end.
Potentially, sure.
That could affect where you're going to go because I know it's not wide receiver, but
would
it's
certainly
still
help
a pass catching option.
Certainly help Shaheen as well, the tight end.
Yep.
No longer a rookie Shaheen. But for me, when it comes to Calvin Ridley, my big concern, and I've had the Bears, I'm pretty sure in the first one he was gone already. Oh, no, he was there. Mock draft 1, the Bears got him. Mock draft 2, the Bears magically somehow ended up with Bradley Chubb. I don't know how that happened. But in mock draft 3, I had them going with defense again. Calvin Ridley, the thing that concerns me a little bit with him is he's a great wide receiver, but I feel like he's not that standout wide receiver. He doesn't make you, when you watch him play, he's good, but he's not going to make you be like, wow, I need that guy right now. He is taking over on his own, and maybe part of that is just Alabama in general. Alabama is not the Big 12 where it's all offense, no defense. That's for sure. When I switched over to that, I look at Ward and I just think of the need, even with Kyle Fuller, if the Chicago Bears get that long-term deal, which I'm still not sold on Kyle Fuller. I think that's just one of those contract year situations, and once he gets that contract, he's going to go back to playing not well like he used to do. But Denzel Ward to me is that kind of quality assurance of get a top cornerback who can kind of improve the defensive back situation. If Fuller starts slipping up again, you at least have somebody else who can take over, who can be better. If you don't re-sign him, at least you have this going for you. It's kind of, sure, more pass rush is nice. Linebackers would be nice, but I think defensive back is really where the Chicago Bears need it most.
Well, and the one thing I want to throw out really about Calvin Ridley, because really to me, if the first team that I could see taking Ridley is the Bears. It's always been the Bears. They're the first, and then if they don't take him, obviously he'll fall to somebody. One of the teams will take wide receiver. Kind of looking at what NFL.com has, they have a quote from an NFC team general manager, and he says, and I quote, "I haven't seen them all yet, but I doubt anybody in this class will touch him at that position. You wish he was a little bigger and stronger, but he can get open on just about any route you want. I still think he's a step below where Amari Cooper was coming out," end quote. And the NFL comparison that they have on NFL.com is, I'm going to do the famous game that Brandon loves. I'm going to have you guess an all-time Indianapolis Colt great is who they're comparing him to.
I don't know. I'm bad
Marvin
with names.
Harrison is who they are comparing him to. One of the best weapons for Peyton Manning during his time with the Colts. And I mean, you look at it, I can get that comparison only because Marvin Harrison was a smaller guy, about 196 foot or 186 foot. Amari Cooper is an inch taller at 161, and he's about 190 right now, according to NFL.com's measurements. I know how people love to go through the different measurements, but that's the thing, like in a nutshell, that's Amari Cooper. The knocks are like, yeah, you wish he was a little bigger. yeah, there's a talent gap there where it's like, of course, like the Washingtons, the Suttons, the Christian Kirks, where it's like Calvin Ridley and then everybody else. But it's like he's not Amari Cooper. He's not where Justin Blackmon was. I'm talking hype level too, of where Justin Blackmon was coming out. He's not on that level of wide receivers that we've seen in the past.
For the Bears at number 8, I mean, it's not even wide receiver. It's just he's just not the 8th best player in the draft.
Well, that too.
And I think a team like the Bears, which aren't that far away anymore from the playoffs, despite what their record showed last year.
Would you rather them go wide
BPA.
receiver in round 2?
Depends who's there. Really is what it's going to come down. I mean, the Bears, I think this year should almost purely be BPA. I think the other side of it is they really, really have to play really hard for top wide receiving talent in free agency.
True.
And that's going to affect something. Because if, once again, the Bears can't get anybody of any worth, then there's starting to be an issue.
Last thing I want to ask you, and it goes with the New York Jets. The only reason is because both you and I there was one decision to make if you're the Jets, and that is, do you go with Josh Allen or do you go with Baker Mayfield? I chose Josh Allen. You chose Baker Mayfield.
Sure
Why
did.
did you pick Baker to the Jets?
Part of it, I think Baker in New York makes sense, just personality-wise. But I really do think that if I want a guy who's going to start from the beginning, I just don't really want Josh Allen to do it. I just don't really, and I kind of get the idea for me of Josh Allen being one of those first round, a Jake Locker or something like that, or a Christian Ponder, one of these guys who just fizzles, and I don't see it. The more and more I've kind of looked at him, I just don't get that excited about Josh Allen. At least Baker Mayfield, I like what I see when you watch him. Now, of course, you have something like the Senior Bowl, and there's nothing to be excited about with Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield seems like the guy who can go and get it done. He's got his issues. He has some flaws as well and things that are going to have to get worked out. But that's going to be up to coaching. Josh Allen, to me, is that guy who's going to need a year to sit and learn.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, one of the big knocks, and I think it's Sean that's brought this up, is Josh Allen's never had a completion rate higher than 56% in either of his seasons
and
as
it's not
a starter.
that difficult of a conference.
Well, and it's not, after looking at him and watching some of his, watching all of his game film, it's not the opponents that is the problem. It's just his overall accuracy, where it's like, yeah, he's a mobile guy. He's a good athlete. He's got the size you want at the quarterback position, and he's got the arm strength. However, the two big knocks that I had on him after watching the film was that he's not accurate, and he makes poor decisions at times. There was one where, and I said this on a older podcast, we were talking about Josh Allen. I believe it was the one where we talked about his best fit. He was staring down a wide receiver the whole time, and then somebody that we're going to talk about later in this mock draft, Josh Jackson, not the guy who plays for the Phoenix Suns. We got that comment. Like, oh, wasn't he in the NBA draft? No, Josh Jackson from the Iowa Hawkeyes. He was staring down his wide receiver, threw it. Josh Jackson stepped in front of it, and boom, he was off to the races. So, I mean, that's the reason why, the knocks against him. However, with Josh Allen, I would rather go with the guy who has the arm strength, has the size that I want. I can work on decision making. I can coach decision making. I can coach accuracy. I can set him up for accuracy too. Just the routes that we run, the offense that we run, and tailor around the quarterback. Baker Mayfield, it's not like, oh, Baker shouldn't be here. It's just, to me, going between the two, Baker Mayfield, the size between the two, the size falls in hand of Josh Allen, and with Baker Mayfield, there's some stuff mechanically to where it's like, okay, you might have some batted passes in the NFL. However, you look at shorter quarterbacks anyways. Russell Wilson makes it work. Drew Brees makes it work. So it's like there's no exact science to all of this. before we move on 11 through 21, any final thoughts for anything in the top 10?
The only thing I'm going to say to end this one out, and I'm not going to give a ton, Calvin Ridley going to the 49ers. I know you got the offensive guard, and you know that I like to give quarterbacks offensive line.
Either way, like you and I, you signed Jimmy Garoppolo.
Give him
you
something.
got to give him something. And Calvin Ridley was not on the board for me.
Yeah. I love the idea of going with the wide receiver. They need some more help. Sure, I love to go offensive line. I do it all the time with a quarterback because I like to support them.
Colts fans hated you.
They hated me, and I finally got you guys Bradley Chubb.
And
so
now they're going to be like, where's our offensive lineman?
I almost wanted to, like when I was doing the mock draft, I almost wanted to just say, nope, still going to get an offensive lineman. Still going to happen. But not this time.
Well, I will say originally my top 5, I originally had it to where I kept the same top 5, and then I went back and I was like, I can't have that same top 5. But for me, and really with the Colts in that pick, I had to look up the Twitter handle. We got to see what one of our followers at Shane O'Mac, who changed his actual name to Coach Reimer, but Shane O'Mac was tweeting at us about the Colts. Yeah, for the Niners with me, reason I have him going guard is right now Brandon Fusco is red when you look at the depth chart on our lads. That means he's a free agent this year. And I don't know if they're going to re-sign him. They possibly could, but still, he's your only right guard. You need a guard. Quentin Nelson's there. Go ahead and get Jimmy G some protection. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think about the top 10. What would you guys have for your top 10? And then any of the picks that you agree with or disagree with, let us know down below in the comment section.